Hi everybody, Yu Gong here, old Mr. Simple. Thought I'd give a little chat because something on my mind lately, and it has to do basically with doing postures in the form on the opposite side. Now, Sifu Chukro just dropped a video about this, and I put his video in the links below. It's well worth listening to. But from my point of view, and I thought I'd put my own 2 cents in, that why I do believe it's very important. Even though it's this contentious issue in the Cheng Man Ching tradition, which it really doesn't need to be. But I'll give my background and then you could take it the way you want. I've been doing Tai Chi for maybe 2 years with Jim O'Callahan, my first teacher, and I was doing Tang Soo Do karate at the same time. It really helped my Tang Soo Do karate. One day we're doing line sparring, and one of the other students does a front kick with his right leg right to me. And I did squatting single whip faster than you can blink. I was down and my left fingers were in his groin in like a microsecond. I don't know how I ever moved that quickly. He was shocked. I was shocked. I don't know how it happened. I also don't know how I didn't get kicked in the face, because if you think of it, the right foot is coming this way, but the hooked hand is the right hand, and the left hand is the one that go forward into the groin. In reality, the squatting single whip should have been on the opposite side, with the hooked hand grabbing his leg and my right hand going into his groin area. So I actually did the squatting single whip fantastic, but I was on the wrong side per what the other person was doing to me. So I'm lucky I didn't get a full foot in the face. So looking at that, by doing the form on that one side alone, squatting single whip on the normal side, how do you counter someone doing a right kick using their right leg, which is on our opposite side? So I should have been doing squatting single whip on the opposite side. Now, fast forward a decade, and early 2000s, I was basically didn't have any instructor, and I was just doing some Tai Chi on my own. I got kind of bored, and I started trying to do the form on the opposite side. It took me over 2 months. It was very clunky, didn't flow, wasn't very good. So I gave up. Then when I was practicing with Martin in about a year, late 2000s, before 2010, somewhere around there, I was taking a shower. And suddenly I had a flash on the right side of my brain that went to my left side. And, it's one of those things where you think you're having a stroke. So I'm like, oh, am I having a stroke? And suddenly I realized that one side of my brain gave the knowledge of how to do the form on the opposite side of my brain. So I jumped out of the shower, threw on a towel, and I did the form on the opposite side in the living room without any hesitancy. It was almost as good as my right side. So this miraculous event happened where one side of my brain instructed the other side of my brain how to do it. So I thought I was really amazed by that. Miraculous things can happen in Taijiquan. But then I asked Martin in an email about doing the form on the opposite side. Now, he was like, no, you don't do the form on the opposite side. You don't have to do it on the opposite side. So sadly, this is one of those cases where you shouldn't listen to your instructor, but I did. 4 to 5 months later, we got into a really bad car accident where my head hit the ceiling, I got a concussion, and I had a deficit on my left side. And I found out only doing the form on the opposite side cures that deficit. Now, I can only imagine how much better I would have come through the car accident if I had not listened to Martin in at the time, forgive me, Martin, and continued to do the form on the opposite side. So today, I still do the form on the opposite side. I do it almost 2 times for every 1 time on the normal side. And that's where the grass sparrow's tail form came from, is now I'm doing the grass sparrow tail postures, the Peng Lu Qian with single whip on both sides. And I teach that to all my beginning students now, because it's really the push hands form. Because on push hands, you do Peng Lu Qian on both sides. So why aren't we training Peng Lu Qian on both sides? So I think that's a deficit by not doing that. So I practice both the postures on both sides. I practice the form on both sides. I do the grass sparrow's tail form on both sides. When I was with Bob Amaker, unfortunately, I wasn't there in 1995 or 6 when he was teaching San Chow, and Jim O'Callahan and the group went, and unfortunately never called me. But that's the way Bob was teaching San Chow, is he'd do everything as a couplet with A and B side, and then he'd make you do the opposite side as well. And when I finally learned San Chow from Bob Amaker in 2017 or 18, he recommended, once you get proficient, start doing it on the opposite side. So at least in my tradition from the Cheng Man Ching lineage, it's strongly, especially from Bob Amaker, doing it on the opposite side. And since my little miraculous event, which we can't all count upon, though you can always hope for it, I recommend you do it too. And you can take one posture and do it back and forth from each side. It really does help, especially Peng Lu Qian. If you can do ward off, roll back, double press, double push, and drill it both sides, you'll be really better off when it comes to push hands. So that's my take on it and the experiences I've had with doing the form and postures on both sides. Play with it, do what you want, and hopefully it will increase your skill. Take care.